use this title for the report, using a scale model, which is what you made, to understand how to conduct quadrat sampling. Notice there's no N here. It's not quadrant, it's quadrat. A quadrant is a particular segment of a circle, but a quadrat is that sampling device that we used in biology and in ecology. So quadrat sampling, and then applying the chi-squared test to assess the association between two species. So it's not really that we had a specific research project here, because it was the use of a model in science to understand how to use a scientific tool, and then of course to use the data that we generate from that model to carry out this important chi-squared test of association, where if it's applied in biology, it's often to test association between two species or between a biotic component like a species and an abiotic component, a non-living component like moisture or absence of light or presence of light or something like that. So to lay out this report, we would need to have a background first of all, and in that background you are going to discuss certain things. Now you don't write this out like questions. I want you to discuss all of these points here in continuous prose in a few paragraphs, and be sure to cite your sources. Then we come to talk about the hypothesis. If you watched my video, you would see towards the end I talk about the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So what's your hypothesis in this investigation, this model investigation that you carried out? Do you think there was going to be an association between your two model species, or no association? And if you think there was going to be an association, then you have the alternate hypothesis. If you think there's no association, then you have the null hypothesis. So at the end of the investigation, based on the data that you get, you would be able to conclude whether the alternative hypothesis is valid or the null hypothesis is valid. And that will be based on the findings of the chi-squared test. And that video explains exactly how to make that determination. Now you'll have to give a full procedure in this next section, explaining exactly how you made your model, the scale to which your model was going to be made, your method by which you made your model quadrat and used the random generator, the random number generator to lay out the quadrat in different places to collect data. And then after giving that explanation, you should also include a photo or two photos that are relevant to what you're writing about, and refer to them in your write-up, please. Then of course you give the raw data, which is the contingency table. If you don't know what that is, check the video. Then show in good detail, easy to follow details, how you move from the contingency table to the setup like I have on the video for the chi-squared table. Then explain step by step how you arrive at the p-value. Then in your analysis, in your own words and with reference to your data, you would say what the p-value means for you. Again, you should see the video so that you can get some guidance on that. Finally, what are we going to discuss about this lab activity? We are going to discuss some strengths and weaknesses of models and how they were used in this investigation. Obviously, you might have had certain benefits that come out of using a model and certain disadvantages. Models, of course, have limitations, and I want you guys to identify what those are. Then I want you to take on this extension question. It's again something to show that you're a thinker, not to throw it back at me and say that you don't understand. Give it a shot. Suggest how you could use a drone with a GPS guidance system to carry out a similar study in an area of grassland that is 50 kilometers by 45 kilometers. So what you need to do there is to think about all of the concepts that we use in this model activity and apply them to this bigger scale activity, even bigger than the kind of study that we would do if we could go out into the field, because you're talking about huge distances, bigger than the size of a small island. And how could we, instead of using a random number generator, have a GPS Well, maybe we could use it in conjunction with a random number generator, but a GPS guidance system. So think about that. Finally, include your works cited. So your works cited, not work cites, that's a typo. And you will have all class to do this today. So it's very important that you engaged in this activity last time, and I didn't see everybody's photos, but I expect that by the end of today you would have a full report including your photos uploaded onto ManageBack in the very same tab for this assignment which was created last time, where you should have already placed some photos of your activity. Any incomplete work will result in a negative log on ManageBack. I do have reason to believe that there are a couple of people who are not showing the kind of maturity and responsibility needed for working remotely like this, and I'll have that responsibility to let your homeroom teacher, the coordinators, the principal, and of course your parents know about that approach that some people might be taking. So I'm going to have to make a negative log. I've actually made a couple positive logs for people who have been showing that they are risk takers and thinkers and things like that. You might want to get your name in one of those for sure. And of course, coming up after this, and another reason to do it really well, is our first summative assessment is going to be based on this activity. It's going to be an open notes activity, open book activity, but I'll have you on camera to make sure that you write your answer down on a piece of paper in your own handwriting, and you take a photo of all the calculations and send it to me at the end, just to make sure that you understand about this chi-square test. And what I propose to do is to give you some raw data and then to tell you basically to carry out the chi-square test, decide whether you're going to accept or reject the null hypothesis. So if all of that is confusing you, please use this time to work on this report, share this report with me, and put any questions there on the Hangout, or send it to me on a private Hangout or an email, and I will get back to you. So I want today's class to be more of an asynchronous session, of course. That's why I'm putting up this recording to share with all of you, and then giving you the class time to finish this activity and post your questions on ManageBack or via a private Hangout. And I look forward to seeing everybody's work at the end of class.